What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another awesome episode of the Fit 40 podcast. Today, I am lucky enough to have an incredible guest with me. This guy was actually one of the coaches in my mentorships, OTA. He is also a fellow dude that trains predominantly women, and he is an absolute expert in that field, even though he might not say expert. But he is a wealth of knowledge, and I cannot wait to pick his brain. The guy's been through the music industry. He's done insurance. He's now on to fitness, and he is the man. Cannot wait to just go down the rabbit hole, all things. He actually just got certified in Menopause. I guess you can call it mastery, and we're going to drop some tips and knowledge for you guys. Cannot wait.
Hey, thanks for having me here, Coach. I appreciate it, man. Our whole sort of extension of the online trainer academy and those coaches is like a big family, like a large team. So we're practically cousins. And anytime, basically, I mean, I can't tell which side is me or you in the photo right now. I don't know which side I'm on. We're fundamentally identical here. But I'm always happy to jump in with coaches that have been through that process, man, because there's just a certain mentality, a certain quality of human. So when you reached out to me, I was like, heck yeah, after a few days, because I was doing other stuff. But as soon as I got back from Canada, I was like, hey, I need to hit this link and get on, man. I'm happy to be here, man. Let's chop it up and give some great information.
Awesome. Because that was the Andrew Coates's conference that you were at. That's actually where I saw a picture of you and John. And I'm like, I got to hang with John at Raise the Bar down in Dallas last year. And I'm like, oh shit, I never got around to like meeting Ren and connecting with him. So I'm going to put him on the podcast. And here we are.
I love it, man. I love it. And I hope to go to that one in February, man. Like the conference that I just went to, Andrew Coates, that was the first one since 2017, the May after I went through the first cohort of OTA. I had not been to a conference since, man. So it was exciting for me to, several years removed from the first conference after doing all this stuff. So are you thinking about Raise the Bar next year? Is that something that's on your radar?
Unfortunately, moving is in the equation. It is fortunate. It is fortunate, but it's like in my mind, I'm like, the conference fund, damn.
Right.
But I will do unspeakable things to get back to Dallas. So I'll find a way.
That's what we love to hear in the coaching space.
You and me know the value of that, like being around other coaches and other people that are in that mind space and doing the damn thing. It's so cool.
It's so cool, man. And I've forgotten that. I was a new coach fundamentally when I went to the first one. So man, it was awesome. But I'm glad to be here.
Hell yeah. Now I figure we could start with your journey because I'm a big Marvel guy and I'm a big fan of the origin stories like Captain America, Iron Man. And I figure that's the way we got to start. We got to like marinate this conversation with the come up. So man, let's give the people a little background. Like I know you started in music, right?
Right. So I've always been a music geek, man. So music is actually what brought me to fitness, ironically, because I was a band geek in high school, right? And my boys were football players. So we lived in the neighborhood adjacent to our high school. And we all walked back home together. In a couple of days, in I think sophomore year in high school, I couldn't find them. I was like, where were you guys after school? They were like, oh, we went to the weight room. I was like, what's the weight room? They were like, you go and lift weights, you get muscles. But because I'm also a Marvel nerd, who actually thought that he might be an illustrator for Marvel at some point in his life, I got really good at comic book illustration, man. I was like, well, I've been drawing these deltoids on Spider-Man and this quad sweep, and these serratus muscles that lead down into the abdominals. I want to look like a superhero, so I started exercising, man. And my older brothers are somebody else that encouraged me, but I never lost that love of music, and I took that into my college years where I attempted to get signed as an artist with three of my other friends, sort of like at that time, it was the 90s. It was a magical time for R&B music.
Yeah.
Just magic. It was time to be alive. And we were
Well, those were
attempting,
the pre SoundCloud days, right? Where you're
yeah,
handing
that's
out
absolutely.
demos left and
Oh,
right.
heck yeah. There was no digital music fundamentally did not exist except for a very fresh, new, up and coming pirating software called Napster. Uh,
Ah,
yeah. Other than that, you bought music from a store like eggs. you you just had to go somewhere and put it in a crate and take it to a register and buy it and then open it to consume it. So that
I'm sure
again,
all the ladies right now really appreciate the trip down memory lane.
yeah, yeah. That's if they're old enough. So, but I wanted to be a musician, man, and I
Yeah.
plugged away at it for like 15 years. Um, all the while maintaining my own fitness. I started exercising at 15. I'm 49 now. I never stopped in between. So trying to maintain my wellness led me to magazines again, 80s, 90s. You didn't go on bodybuilding.com. There was no .com to
Yeah.
go on to. You bought a men's health magazine or a shape magazine if you had a girlfriend at the time and she wanted to work out with you too. Let's get you a shape out of the grocery
Yeah.
store
Or you
and look at
just
the
like
article.
casually put it in the bathroom, like maybe she'll see
Yeah,
it. We'll just
absolutely.
subversively put
Absolutely.
this in there.
There's nothing wrong with passive aggressiveness in a relationship. No matter what any relationship guru tells you, disregard
Yeah.
that. Be as passive
I,
aggressive as possible.
I am learning the subtle art.
Well, yeah, at all times. So, fundamentally, I sort of became the guy that knew about fitness, at work through college. I didn't major in any of this. My first major was engineering. I got flunked out. I got kicked out of the engineering department, moved over to business, which, thank you, that really served me as I became an independent owner and operator of a fitness business. Who knew that that was going to happen? I was doing business fundamentally to do the business for our group. So I was taking business courses at one college and music courses at another university through a consortium. They were both public colleges, so I could take classes at either one. And unfortunately, man, tragedy led me into the fitness game full time. Lost my brother due to a heart attack, the one that got me involved in fitness. 4 years later, lost my older sister, Robin, who drank, got in a car, hit a tree, and died suddenly. She was my comic book connection because she was 13 years older than me. So when she was like 23, I was 10, and I was
Oh, she was
made to
living
go to the.
vicariously through you,
Yes,
like
yes,
reliving it.
yes. So on Saturdays, my mom would make her take me with her to the mall. She
Mhm.
shopped like nobody's business. I mean, it was a mall years. It's like 1984, 85, man. And what you
Yeah.
did was go to the mall and shop. And she'd buy me a comic book and a cookie to pacify me as a little boy that didn't want to go from department store to department store looking at women's clothing, which also paid off because I ended up selling women's retail through college. So all these things, man, sort of put me in a position to work with women in the capacity I do today. But lost my sister, man. Lost my mother due to cardiac issues. She had a massive stroke. She survived for 17 years after that, but all three
Wow.
of her children took turns giving her care until my brother died. And then she moved in with my sister, and then my sister died, and then she was under my care. So all these things sort of led me into the wellness space, man. And as we know from those from that hero's journey, whether it's MCU, whether it's Star Wars, like a lot of the same conditions that create villains create heroes. It's just a matter of decision making, right? So because of what they poured into me, all of these my amazing older siblings, my mother who was extremely intelligent woman, medical professional. Um, I said I would not want to disrespect what they poured into me by falling apart, right? I'm going to take what they poured in, I'm going to shift my career, I'm going to pour something out. So I was beside my mother's bedside the last few months of her life when I saw that commercial for National Academy of Sports Medicine, man, and it was like a sitcom, Coach. It was like the TV was talking to me. Like, do you love fitness? I was like, yeah. Like, do you find yourself stuck in a dead end job? I was like, I sure do. Have you been concerned about the cost of getting a fitness education. I was like, oh, well, I have television. Now that you asked me, would you love a payment processing plan where you could learn about fitness, get your certificate, and then work in the industry? I was like, I sure would. And bro, I called the 800 number from my mother's bedside in November. By February, my mother died. March, I took my exam, my proctor's exam. I passed it, cried all the way home. And April, I turned 40 of that year. And by May, I was a full-time trainer, man, trying to figure out how to do it. So that's my story, man, and I'm sticking to it.
That's one hell of a story. And I'm glad I'm not the only person that got into this on a discount. So
right.
I saw the ACE. They were putting out ads all over the place on bodybuilding.com, I think. And I'm like, $99 to become a trainer, done.
I'll do that, bro. Like, sign me up for that. And you know, and we know Coach Ronnie, that's the entry point, right? That point doesn't make you an all-knowing, fitness mogul, but it's a good entry point, and you just want to get in, man.
Yeah,
like you just want to
get your foot in the door. And I tell everybody, I studied hard for that thing. Like, I memorized the book front to back. It took like 6 months. Sat down, and then as soon as I looked at all these questions, and I had got like a 90 something or whatever, I'm just like, I could have taken this day one and passed. I wasted so much time.
Yeah, you took it. I mean, but you know, to your credit, you took it seriously, man. And that's how I thought about it. I was like, I really need to know this stuff if I'm going to work in this space, particularly through the lens of someone that's lost so many family members to health-related conditions. I was trying to cope initially with grief through work. So it was important to me that I was, quote fingers for people that aren't seeing any video here, quote fingers, I was saving lives. So, a little bit of that little boy that wanted to be Spider-Man, right? And a lot of that adult man who wanted to shift his destiny, right? That it made it serious for me, man. And I've relaxed so much since then, generally speaking, but I was particularly rigid when I first started out. Again, I think because of the emotional emphasis caused me to treat it so personally and so seriously that I was probably not great with clients initially.
Yeah. Well, if I could throw another Marvel in comparison in here, that was like the very first Iron Man suit. It wasn't perfect, but it did the job. It didn't look pretty, but you know what? There were things that can be improved upon, and then we just level up as we go. More certs, more experience, and by the end, it's that beautiful CGI version.
Yeah. I'm Mark 42 now, so I've had several iterations of the suit. I even got the Hulkbuster with the parts that come from the satellite. I'm set now, but initially, you just want to blast things, right?
Yeah.
You just want to shoot things, and that's where I was as a coach, man. Thank goodness for evolution, right?
Yeah. Would you say that you're what's her name from Game of Thrones, Emilia Clarke? Would you say you're like her now? You've just got a little bit of everybody's superpower, and you're like, I got it. I got it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a super scroll now.
Yes. Sorry for anybody who hasn't seen that. We're spoiling the crap out of it, but
it's a slow burn, that particular series. So you will have forgotten what we said at the end by the time you get there. Anyway, but I enjoyed it. But yeah,
same
man.
Here. I think we're the only two people that did, but
probably so. It's that I find myself now having gone through that first certification. Then I went through a certification with Precision Nutrition. They're a nutrition company for those that are listening that may not be familiar. And their whole thing is sort of being nutritionally agnostic.
Yep.
And what they mean by that is like, you don't have to be keto and you don't have to be vegan. It's perfectly fine if you are, but there's no dogmatic philosophy. And when I went through that certification, I went through 2 with them. I came out with like a Bruce Lee Jeet Kune Do mindset. And for people that aren't familiar with Bruce Lee, other than the fact that he was a martial artist, like what he did was he took pieces of every combat style, a little American boxing, a little judo, a little Wing Chun Kung Fu, a little of everything. And he sort of discarded everything that was fundamentally in the way of efficiency. And that's where I find myself at this point as a coach. There's just some things that I know are relatively inefficient, but I have a respect for a broad spectrum of coaching styles and different methodology. And I think that serves coaches better because for marketing, or is a powerful word. Right? If I want to sell some stuff, I say, hey, are you gonna do keto or veganism, right? Are you gonna do weight training or cardio? Or is great for marketing. I'm gonna say a bad word here, Coach.
Oh,
Apologize up
we
front.
curse on
It's
here. Go
okay.
for it.
It's shitty for humans. It's shitty for the humans that need help. For the humans that need help, and it's better, right? I did some cardio this week, and I did some strength training. Uh, I ate some plant-based meals, and I ate some meals that were animal protein based for those that tolerate it and don't have philosophical leanings towards protection of animals, because I completely get that.
In all
Um, you
honesty, I
know,
think if anybody was vegan and super pro vegan, they were probably long gone after listening to a couple of mine.
that's fair. That's fair. You've already offended all the people I'm trying to avoid here. Good job.
Yeah. We are
So,
selective.
so, so that's the way I think about wellness now, man. Let's put a few more and sentences in there, because humans aren't monolithic in how they think, act, and feel. And there really isn't one solution that works for everybody. So I've gone from being a very rigid new coach to 10 to 11 years down the line, becoming, I'm the grandparent now, man. I just let the kids do anything and I send them back. Um, the that mom that was so strict on you when you were a kid, and you have some kids and you see your mom playing with your kids and you're like, who the fuck is this woman? Because I don't know her. Who's the woman encouraging these kids to jump up and down on the couch? Because if I sat on the couch hard, the beatings are going to commence. Shout out to everyone who does not believe in the philosophy of spanking children. I get it. I'm just Generation X, and that shit didn't exist when I was a kid. we didn't speak that way in the 80s. You got
Different
beatings.
times, different times.
Different
There,
time. But I turned out okay.
yeah, gentle parenting might have been one of those things that people like laugh at back in the day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anything that made sense or was
Yeah.
rooted in science or actual real psychology, we just called it stupid in the 80s. That's how you refer to it.
Yeah.
But I digress. So that's my origin. That's how I got here, and that's why this space is so important to me.
Hell yeah. And that is definitely one heck of a journey, because it's one of substance. There's a lot there that
Yeah.
is driving you, which I think is something that isn't all too common. Is a lot of people don't have that substance, that backing it up as to the why. It's like, well, why are you doing this? I don't know. It's a way to make money. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that
That
being said, that drives you to those places of like, I want more. I want to learn more. And that's what I can't wait to dive into, the learning the more. What or let me backtrack. I heard Ren on a podcast, another really good podcast. It's now the Obvious Choice podcast, but they were talking about how like me and Ren are both males training women. So obviously that begs the question, what the hell do you know about training women? Like you're not a woman, but the way that you answered that blew me away. And I'm like, I'm glad that he sees it this way, because I was kind of in that same headspace of like, we're just learners. We're not here to tell you we've been there. We're here to tell you, I've heard that story. I've heard what you're going through, and I know ways that can help. Do you want to try? So where have you found the best sources of information when it comes to serving this population?
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. Because I wrote an article for the Personal Trainer Development Center about niche. And it was so well received that ACE eventually picked it up and they republished this. And first of all, for me, is an immersion in the community to the extent that I can. There's an awesome coach colleague who was on one version of the podcast with Jonathan Goodman and myself. Her name is Carolina Belmontes. She's a expat from Mexico who now lives in Canada, and
I
she
miss her
gave me the
laugh on the
phrase.
podcast.
I just miss her generally, man.
Yeah.
She's gone through some amazing, challenging things. Shout out to you, Catalina, if you make your way around to this. If you know Catalina, tell her that I mentioned her on the podcast here. But taught me a phrase, and the phrase was "nothing about us without us." Right? And I thought, man, that's just a great phrase for respecting your learning and teaching in regards to a specific population. So one of the first things for me in getting great sources of information is to ask the person that I'm going to be serving. You know, what are your concerns? What are your fears? What are your hopes? What have you found is helpful for you? I just get to be a fly on the wall, man. And that's one of the great things about social media. I can follow the same things that my clientele follows just to hear the discussions. Now, having said that, I was raised in a home where it was primarily woman dominant. My older brother was actually 17 years older than me. So when I was born, he was headed to college. My poor mother, I'll never understand how she did that. Sending a child to college the same time giving birth to a brand new one. That's like getting all the way to the end of a game on PlayStation and somebody hits the reset button. I was just like, wow. But in any case, so primarily I'm in the house with my grandmother, my mother, and my older sister, right? Three very, very, very smart, very, very opinionated women. So that's my first inundation. But second, I started to follow people like a Mel Robbins, right? If you all are familiar with her, if there are women listening, you probably heard of Mel
It is
Robbins
so
and her
funny you
social
brought
media.
her up because the person I just had on, who's probably going to be the week before you, literally brought up
Uh-huh.
Mel Robbins. So
Yeah.
2 for 2.
And I follow Oprah, of course, the queen of all media. Following people like Sohee Carpenter now at Sohee Fit, Massey Arias, who was previously known as Manco Fit. Just following these dynamic, intelligent women and listening to the questions that went reading for better accuracy, reading the questions that women are asking them on their social media and watching the delivery of the answers, just getting the nuances of what challenges the population that I serve are probably facing, and also I don't know if I just said this and I'm repeating exactly what I just said, but understanding the language. You know, one of the first slaps on the wrist that I got as a male working in the space with women specifically was I said something 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 females, right? And a woman replied, "A female what?" And I was confused by the question, but what she was teaching me was say woman, because female denotes a sex, typically a biological sex. Um, so say woman. You know, don't say females do this, females do that, females this. If you're talking about a human female, just say women. It's so much more well received. So being open to correction is a sign of wisdom, right? So I also had to take my lumps, man. And I felt like if I was able to be more empathetic, it would allow me to operate in this space. And this is a term that I sort of coined on that podcast was just the seesaw of empathy, right? Like if you've got knowledge about a thing firsthand, you may not need to be so very empathetic. However, if you've never been a woman, aren't planning to become a woman, then you're on the other side of that seesaw. If the information, experience, and firsthand account is low, the empathy needs to be higher. And you only get to empathy through understanding, and you only get to understanding through research and being willing to learn. So that's how I'm able to get good source of information. First, from the actual population of the women I serve. Second, from the experts that population follows. And then third thing for me, it's always a third prong is you know certification, right? You know, very well constructed official certifying bodies that give information in these areas, which led me to Molly at Girls Gone Strong, who I've also had the pleasure of befriending and meeting to the extent that she was willing to include me in their most recent menopause certification. So if you go through that certification course, there's only one guy in any video in that certification course, and it's me, which I feel honored by. I didn't even realize that at the time. But yeah, going to the source, man, and trusting, having the cultural humility to understand that they always will know much more about their circumstances than I can ever learn intellectually. So I better be empathetic,
Yeah.
more so than mansplaining. That never works.
No, that never goes over well. But I do think it's almost like a power position for us as coaches, because knowing that they know that we don't know puts us in the seat of tell us, teach us, like, let us know your story. And you don't get that when somebody doesn't have the empathy and they're like, listen, I did this, so you got to do this. It's like, no, we can work together and figure it out, but I'm not going to come at it from like a I know everything perspective, because I don't.
This is so true, man. Like, conscience is these two words don't go together, but I'm going to use them together anyway. Conscious ignorance is a superpower. If you can maintain a level of understanding about your lack of understanding, it puts you in a great position to get great information, because you approach people with humility first. And then when they give you information, you're wise enough to know that you're dumb enough that you need to take the information that they give you. It's only the self-appointed arrogance, the all-knowingness of a coach that really puts them in a position where they are guaranteed to underserve a population that they're not a part of. So I just kind of try to, for everything I know that there's probably 5 things I don't. And I try to approach it with that sort of, I'm from the South anyway, but with some of that sort of all shucks sensibility. I didn't know that. Thank you so much, man. I don't want to be the expert. I don't necessarily want you to see me coming. I want to be, like Al Pacino said in Devil's Advocate. I want to be innocuous, right? The shit kicking surf.
Yep.
Right. Because that way people never see you coming.
Yep.
And they're much more likely to be not intimidated and give you information.
And being from the South, have you just come to like almost expect when you approach like a lady about their fitness and nutrition, you just expect a bless your heart?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. But that phrase. I'm in North Carolina, in the state of North Carolina. I'm in Charlotte, which is the most cosmopolitan part of this state. So I'm in effectively a big city, an NFL city, NBA city. But bless your heart covers such a wide range of answers.
It sounds versatile.
It's so versatile, man. If you're struggling to do something, oh, bless your heart. If you get up to singing, you suck, bless your heart. If you look handsome that day, bless your heart. Right? It covers a multitude of things. That 3-word phrase gets us. It's what gets us through here in the South.
Yeah. I guess it's like the Southern aloha. It just kind of covers everything.
Pretty much, just kind of covers everything. Because they're ugly baby, bless your heart. Anything. I probably should have said that.
Yeah. Now somebody that you know is going to be like, I hope he's not talking about my baby.
Yeah, it's out there. Somebody's gonna stitch a clip together of some baby and me saying "ugly baby,"
bless your heart.
Yeah, right. And then I'm gonna get a string of DMs. Don't at me out there. That was just jokes, just comments.
Hey, it grows the podcast. At him, go at him.
Yeah. Do what you got to do. I want to get let's really turn some numbers here. At me all day.
This is gonna be the most engaged one yet. But
I love it.
But to bring it back, because I know that the ladies are definitely like, all right, wait, he mentioned a menopause certain there. I want to hear more about that. Like, if somebody's like, all right, I'm kind of in this, like, I'm in this part of life. This like sucks. I don't like waking up at night, sweating my ass off. I don't like being in this brain fog all the time. What are some things that you learned from that cert that you're like, oh, I cannot wait to bring this back to my clients?
Oh man, so much. I'll start with the philosophical, and the philosophical here is that um, it may be something that you feel instantaneously that you want to fight against, right? And I heard Amanda Theib, who is the author of a great book called Menopocalypse. I heard her say this on a different podcast yesterday that another colleague hosts, and she said, your natural tendency will be to fight your way through this change of life. Um, and if at any point you can interject a little bit more acceptance for what's happening, because it is very natural, it's not a diseased state, and you don't have to fight your way through it so much. A little bit of acceptance can make it a lot more easy to deal with. So that's the first thing, because there's an intersection of several stigmas here. We know now that in 2023, 40 is not an old age per se. If you go back and look at old reruns of Sanford and Son, for instance, super old show, most people are somewhat familiar with it. I think he was like Fred Sanford was like 47 or something. Red Fox, who plays like he looked like an old man. Go back and look at the Cosby Show from the 80s. I think young Bill Cosby, however you feel about him, ladies. Let's not get into that. But I think he was like 41 or 42
I mean,
as he played that role.
He
and
looked old for 40.
It played older,
Yeah.
right? That was that version then. In 2023, a 40-year-old is like at a freaking Rihanna concert, stage dive. It's like it's just not the same thing.
Yep.
So the first stigma is sort of the ageism. As a relatively young woman, this can start happening age 37, 38, 39. You're a young person. You might still be going to Coachella or Burning Man. So the first thing is the stigma of age, and working around that. The second thing is the stigma of health, because you may feel some health things as a woman who has regularly exercised, regularly prioritized nutritious food. You may feel things happening in your body that feel weird and strange due to biological reasons. So we've got the I'm a healthy person stigma. And the third thing is really the mental stigma, right? Because perimenopause, the opening doorway of the menopause spectrum, can affect your anxiety, and it can affect your sensitivity to depression and depressive thoughts. So you've got the mental health stigma. And so many women have told me, I don't want to be on an antidepressant, anti-anxiety. I don't want to feel like I'm an old lady whose hip hurts and knees hurt. What's going on? I don't want to feel like I don't have control over my body. I work out regularly. How dare you? Belly fat increase without my permission? So the second thing is sort of moving away from the stigmas, right? And understanding that there are treatment options in every area of this time of life, that if you can get past your thoughts individually about any stigma attached to the symptoms, you can get great help as you're going through this. It's just a natural transition. More specifically, I'll pause there. I'll pause there because you're probably going to want to get into like specific exercise and nutrition and things. So I'm just going to hold there and let you take the show back over and tell me where we go next. But those are the initial things, right? Like allow yourself to step away from the stigma, societal stigma of aging, and then allow yourself to find a little bit of acceptance that this is a rite of passage and good for you. You've lived long enough to see it, because my sister barely did. I lost my younger sister in 2020 going through OTA level 2, the higher tiered level of Jonathan Goodman's program. It's OTM now, but a month in, my baby sister died at 38 years old. She never got to go through the menopause transition. So you've got a right of life here, that you've lived long enough to have this process to go through. So try not to hate it so much. It's not a disease state. It's very natural. Every woman's going to go through it, or she's going to die first, right? There's no other options. Now I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah.
I promise.
Honestly, it's pretty wild, the stigmas and everything attached to it, because let's be honest, no guy in their right mind could ever handle any of this. So
Any of it.
it's pretty
And
bewildering to think that like we're putting a negative stigma on it. It's like
right.
the ladies of like past that age and past that point in life are the most badass people to walk the earth right now. They should not feel bad at all.
And and this is why the male, I know that women don't care what men think. I get it. I read it all day, but I wish there was some way to exchange the information from the male side that we could convey that, man, I think women past 40 are such badasses. I mean, they have there's a sense of there's a sense of no fucks given that you don't get with a 20 or 30-year-old woman. No disrespect to 20 or 30-year-old woman. You have your own, but you know what it's like? It's like that meme where you may have seen this before, where there's a picture of some woman or some guy with a gray beard, and they say, "Men, please don't wash that gray out of your beard
Yeah.
because we love it," right? But there's no reciprocating of that
Yeah.
conversation. Like women don't even want to hear about their gray hair. Some do. There are influencers that influence through the gray hair community. Also, they're amazing, but and if you look at it this way too, and I'm going to be quiet, I promise. But you knew what you were
Keep
getting
going,
into when
keep
you invited
going.
me here. You know, you look at, bro, I can't watch an NFL game without 7.5 different commercials about a man's penis not rising. I mean, he's in the separate tub from the lady who has dark hair, and they're holding hands across the bathtubs, and that's Cialis. He's playing they're on a seesaw and it goes up and down. I guess that's the sexual euphemism for Viagra. I mean, like, it's in my inbox, it's in my ads on my stream. Like, there is no shame in the aging penis of a man on social media, network television,
Yeah.
generally speaking, in Western culture. But you got all these women ducking and hiding because they're experiencing night sweats and mood swings and brain fog, and nobody's talking about it generally to normalize. Like, I mean, realistically, guys in their 50s, 60s, 70s, talk about Viagra like they're talking about candy at Halloween. Like, oh, yeah, got the
They're
blue pill.
popping it all
You
the
got to get the
same.
blue pill.
They might as well be candy.
Popping it all the same. Right. Whether they need it or not. I mean, it's so casually accepted.
Yeah.
And there's so many women in dark corners whispering about aging. It's fucking ridiculous, bro. Like, so that's the other thing that I would say about that. And now I'll be quiet and just move
No, I
on.
like that because it does paint the picture where a lot of people are at, because it is this hush hush, this like don't talk about it, or like
Yeah.
I don't want to really, like, I can't even tell you how many times I hear or I see the letters TMI warning, because
Right.
women will message me and like say I'm going through this and that, and I'm like, I thank you for telling me that. It
Yes.
helps me do my job as a coach. Like, TMI should not be
We
a thing
are
if you're talking to a health
right.
professional.
Right. I was told by a woman in the industry early on as I started branching, making my way into working exclusively with women over 30 at that time, specifically moms over 30. And she said, look, if you can't say vagina, and if you can't say period, and if you can't say menstruation, you're doing a disservice to this population if you're going to serve them. If that's still 13-year-old boy is there in you that won't be able to communicate clinical terms for a woman's anatomy and any of the clinical symptoms, conditions that she may encounter, just stay away, right? Just don't even get into the space, because there's enough of that already. And if you're going to professionally help this population, you need to be able to encourage them to speak freely about their own physicality. So I'm just in that space now, man. And like you said, like, for women out there who don't know this because you haven't worked with a coach, or for coaches out there that don't work with women, Coach Fitzsimmons is absolutely correct here. You always get the disclaimer before you can get the information to help the client if she's a woman. Oh, this might be too much information, but well, is it okay for me to get really personal here? Because, or I don't know if you want to hear all this, but like, and I'm like, this is a this is a relationship built on science and your health. We have to talk about these things if we're going to improve your overall health. Like, this isn't the locker room at the frat house, right? I'm a professional here. And it just really speaks to the taboo that's been created by a male dominated society, let's call it what it is, to sort of push women back into this corner where they can't have normal conversations about their holistic health. And coach, that's why we're in this space, right? To help. We're in this space to assist as they break down the barrier. They don't need our help. They do need allyship, but they don't need us to do it for them. They just need us to keep the space clear of nonsense, so that they have room to stretch into the reality of female physicality, man.
And if I could just be blunt here, I think the only thing that we can provide is to support shutting down misogynistic douchebags, because there's always one or two in the group that make everybody feel bad, and the majority of us don't feel that way. The majority of us were raised by women who taught us to be respectable, and that's not how the majority of guys think.
100%. But it's just the minority. It's always got their goddamn mouth open, man. They're always saying something stupid. There's like one or two people that seem to feel like they need to hear their voice all the time. And quite frankly, it pisses me off. But you're right, man. They don't, our job is just to make it uncomfortable for misogynists to operate. That's our job. Other than that, women just need us to get out of the way. Just get out of the way.
Exactly.
And I'm here for it.
If we can help, we're here to help.
Here to help. But we're not in charge.
But when you were talking about all that, I did come up. I know we were talking about like if we want to blow this podcast up and get engagement, but I gotta say, I think one of the best things that could come of this podcast, I might do it, is just like, you know how George Carlin had like the 10 or the list kept growing, but like the number of words you can't say on television. I'm just going to recreate that and put, I'm a male coach coaching women, and I'm not afraid to say vagina, uterus, like breasts.
Yeah, I love it. I remember he had pussyfoot on that list. That was always good. That's a bit of a throwback too, George Carlin, man. Where'd you hear about George Carlin?
When it comes to movies and comedians, I respect the hell out of the greats, and he's on the Mount Rushmore. And what blew me away is the ease in which he could rattle it off and not miss a beat, and he never had to take a break and be like, "Oh, I forgot." It's just
dude was masterful. One of the other things that my older sister introduced me to was Carlin, man. So I love that reference. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, you surprised me with that one.
He's also one of those comedians that like makes you think a little bit, and I respect comedians that do that, because the other guy that took me by surprise was the guy Rush Hour. What's his name? Chris Tucker. I heard his stand up, and I'm like, he's going a little further than I thought he would. Okay, I'm like in it. Yeah, I'm engaged.
I remember Chris coming out in the.
Oh, you're back.
I had a USB problem. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think I'm just coming through echoing, I think. Oh, no. Now.
That's all right. Yeah. Let me turn this down a little bit.
Let me just.
Yeah, I gotten too loud. It's not USB. But yeah, so, I think that's where our place is as male coaches in this area. It's just to get the misogynists out of the way, and then maybe get ourselves out of the way.
Yeah, we're at the end of the day, we're guides. We're not doing it for you. We're doing this journey alongside you. And what do you find is like some of the best ways? Because I love picking everybody's brains that have been in this game for a long enough time to actually know what works, not just say, oh, I heard this person talk about it, so I'm going to act like I know what I'm talking about. So what are some things that you find yourself always falling back on that seem to work with a lot of your clients?
I think first, man, I think first I want to be led through an official certification course, right? Because there's a mastery of input that's created that course, right? There also the other thing that I love about a certification course is that typically if there's a textbook attached to it, you'll get footnotes that will lead you back to corresponding research, white paper, white label research about what you just read in any given section. So it'll have a little one above a paragraph or a sentence, a little three, and then you can go into the index. You can reference the research, and if you choose to, you can also read that research. Man, sorry, my something's going on with my USB device here.
It's all good. I've had a couple people with that issue.
That's right. It's always something.
Yeah.
All right, I got it back on again. We'll see how this works.
We'll find out.
Okay. All right. I got Mike, man. But so going through research is always going through a certification course is always helpful for me. Then books are probably second for me. Typically, someone's not going to write a book if they haven't researched well the subject, and it's harder to get it published. Now, having said that, a lot of gatekeepers are gone. You can just publish anything on Amazon Publishing now yourself if you wanted to. So I'm going to be mindful of that. And the third thing for me is always the intersection of where's the sale here, right? Because if I'm, no disrespect to anybody that fasts, I'm just using this as an example. If I have a book about fasting, a podcast about fasting, some fasting products and supplements, then you ask me a question. Guess what will help with the question you ask? Fasting, right? So I'm always wary of why the solution has been selected as the best solution. And if I can tie that back to something that's for sale, I'm going to be hesitant to listen to the information, right? The reason for the solution and the reason for presenting this solution matter to me. And the less variety there is in the range of solutions, the less likely I'm going to listen to the person because there are many different ways to elicit results for any specific situation. Limiting all the ways to one way that's capital B best, to use a Jonathan Goodman phrase, I think it's a bit problematic for me.
It's interesting.
That's how I sort of discern.
Yeah. A lot of those can come off as like love letters, like marketing books and all that. It's not really, let's give people the information that's going to help the best. It's how can I push what I believe the best? Yes. This is really true. And this is why I've been hesitant with supplementation, particularly on social media. I'm in nothing wrong with like coaches out there, whatever you do to make your ends meet. I'm not judging you, man. It's a tough business. Once I attracted the attention of this population, I felt a responsibility to not become overly supportive of any one type of solution for them. And that's why I can't represent any company specifically, because I never want to be in a position where I know that maybe the competitor has better efficacy, or this particular thing may be incongruent with what your medical doctor says. It could be it could be counterintuitive, as the medical field says, contraindicated, which just means that it's not good for your body. I love dropping that word. People are like, "Oh, you're smart." Yeah, you're a smart guy. So because of that, like if Nike says, "Hey, let's do a sponsorship," I'm all over it. Oh, yeah. Like I wear Nikes every single day. I got a Nike hat on backwards right now. Like, or if or maybe like Fiji water, even though it's overpriced and probably not the best water ever. I drink that all the time. I feel good about it. But other things for the purposes of income that I know that I don't use, magnesium, right? I like magnesium spray for my clients because most feel depleted in magnesium and it helps them sleep better. It helps with muscle sore. Like I believe in that stuff. I could talk about that and you have some, but other things I can't do it.
because women specifically are very individually wrapped and shipped, right? From one woman to the next
Yeah.
woman, there can be very wide differentiation. And then, particularly in the menopause spectrum, really no two women have the same set of circumstances. It expresses itself through each woman's body really individually. So just any like catch all solution, it'd be fundamentally a waste of their
Yeah.
time from my perspective. I love that
Yeah.
question.
And
It's a good question.
I'm glad because I'm like, I originally went into it with like, all right, let's get some tactical tips, but I love the direction that you took it in because it really does open up like what most people should be doing to vet their information. Because if you just listen to everything that comes
Yeah.
across your screen, you're going to be anxious, frustrated, pissed off, and think that you know everything
Yes.
all at one time. And
Yes.
like for
Yes.
especially this menopause population, I've read books, I've listened to people talk, and there's some people that are literally just HRT is the solution to everything. And I'm like, this can't be right.
Right.
There's definitely somebody out there that does not
Right.
respond to HRT the way that they say they. And I'm just
Absolutely.
like, this is another bastardized section of fitness and health. It's the next
Right.
the next frontier as far as
Oh yeah.
bullshittery.
100%. Like this people are going to start running wild with this over the next 3 to 5 years, and it's going to be the Wild West, unfortunately. So lock down your sources now, ladies, because there's going to be a lot of opportunists, unfortunately, that will corrupt the information in the space. You know, if it sort of feels miraculous, it's probably not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. And like you said, I love the tidbit of information where you're like, if somebody is literally saying, this is the answer to everything, all of your problems, it sounds like something out of the wellness community that like tea tree oil is going to like solve depression and fix cancer. It's like, obviously it's not going to do everything under the sun. And if somebody truly does believe that and pushes it, then you can know that their filter for information is not that good. So it's just not worth listening to them, even though they might have the best of intentions.
They might. It's easy when you really want to help people badly. It's easy to fall into the trap of the one thing fits all. I mean, I've been around long enough now that I went through low carb fixes everything. I went through coconut oil fixes everything. I went through MCT oil fixes everything. I went through now collagen fixes everything. I went through CMOS fixes everything. I mean, there's just a laundry. There's your George Carlin list of miracle cures, right? And it'll be something else in a few weeks or months. And some study will come out. Somebody will take a piece of that study that was done on a segment of a population, and they will bastardize it until the cows come home, as it solves everything, and nothing ever solves
Exactly.
everything.
Especially if it's in a petri dish or on a mouse or a rat, then there's a laundry list of I love Lane Norton when he goes off on this stuff because it's like randomized human control trials. Like there are so many times where people have thought this is going to happen in a study and it just doesn't when you go to humans. So if somebody's quoting a petri dish or a mouse study, like, you know that it's like, okay, they literally just cherry picked this one.
Oh man, it shows the ketogenic diet causes rapid weight loss in female rats over a period of 6 years. Like what, bro? Like, did you say
or
rats?
Like aspartame? It's like, yeah, aspartame causes cancer if you do it at the dosage we gave the rat, which would basically be like drinking 50 Diet Cokes a day for months. Right. So as long as you don't do that, I think you're okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we gave rats half their body weight in aspartame and it caused cancer.
Yeah, it's like you do that with water, they're going to drown. No shit.
Right. They
no
die
shit,
anyway.
Sherlock.
Do that in Cheez-Its and the rats when we did. That's a valid
Yeah.
point, though. It's something that we need to
Yeah.
understand.
Because when
Man.
people grasp these concepts and like the tomfoolery that is out there, then it makes it so easy to spot and just know that, okay,
Yeah,
I'm in my wheelhouse or this is BS. And when you can sift through it
100%.
with a filter, that everybody's better off, because then we're going to weed out the bad actors and the people that haven't been in the game long enough to know what they're talking about. And the people that know their
Right.
shit are going to rise to the top, and everybody's going to be in a much better place.
100%.
Now,
100.
that being said, when it comes to the information that you put out to clients, when it comes to like the basics of what you guys do, what would you say is the thing that you wish everybody listening right now was doing yesterday? Like, what are those things that you're like, man, this is the biggest bang for your buck based on all these certs, based on everything that I've heard, based on my experience with clients? Just do this stuff and you'll be so much better off.
I've got a few things. So number one would be general movement. Finding movement wherever you can, and I mean that non-exercise activity that we talk about, which is a huge portion. Like I always see these things contrasted against calorie reduction or weight loss. Um, you know, I'm exhausted by weight loss now as a coach. Not because I don't want people who want to lose weight to not. I don't. It's not like I don't want them to lose weight if that's what they want to do. I just think that the health goal has a derivative, which is probably going to be better body composition, right? And I think that going for the weight loss, you can do a lot of unhealthy stuff to lose weight, right? But also, you could do a lot of healthy stuff, and that will probably shift your weight, right? That will probably cause you to lose weight. Go through that door. So first, just general movement. Can I walk more? Can I take the stairs more? I'm at a standing desk right now. Can I stand more? Can I sit less? Right? Can I pace when I'm on the phone? So that'd be the first thing. Just like finding all the ways where you might be able to move a little bit more. Can I stand up during the commercial breaks if I'm watching live television, which people rarely do these days? Those things. That's number one. Number two is always going to be strength training, man, because muscle is the greatest indicator of longevity and long-term health that we have now. Like it just is, man. I mean, you could talk about BMI till the cows come home. I get it. I understand the financial practicality of using a BMI chart. There is not very much health practicality to using a BMI chart. It's a gateway to finance, not a gateway to better health. But I understand why it's used. Muscle is everything, man. It's going to keep you from having the host of metabolic diseases, whether that's cardiovascular disease, whether that's insulin issues that lead to prediabetes and diabetes. Strength training is probably the greatest asset to the population of people that will hear this podcast. The challenge with strength training is sometimes the entry point's a little bit higher than what we'd like for it to be. And I respect and understand that. You probably need some knowledge to train your body for strength. And you may need some socioeconomic access to train your body for strength. Maybe, right? So I get that. But if there's one fundamentally sound thing, strength training for men, we know what it does. Men have been doing it forever, but women, particularly women over the age of 30, it's going to maintain the muscle that you are going to start losing at 30, sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. I had a client one time describe it to me as weight loss without maintaining muscle. She was like, I've done that before, and I don't like the melted candle look. And I don't judge people's bodies personally, a new one. But I understood immediately what she meant. And that's that weight loss that's not accompanied by strength training, man. And the atrophy of the muscle, the reduction of the scale weight, but sort of the it's the complete opposite of the toned thing that so many women may discuss with us, right? So muscle keeps you out of that space. Muscle is also cardioprotective. So ladies, if you have more muscle, you have a lesser chance of being at risk for cardiovascular disease. Oh, by the way, that's the number one killer of women around the country. One out of three. One out of three. That's freaking
That's a
crazy.
stat.
It's like what they told me in engineering school. The stats are crazy. They said, look to the left, look to the right. One of you won't be in this engineering department over the 4 years. Who knew that I was going to be the one that wasn't in there? I hope the other two people
everybody
are doing
thinks
great.
that's not going to be me.
Shout out to you two. Yeah, everybody thinks it was exactly me. But man, you think about that, ladies. You go out with your two girlfriends. Look to the left at your girlfriend on your left. Look to the right, your girlfriend on your right. One of you, unless otherwise getting into some conditioning, some strength training, prioritizing, one of you is going to disappear in the next 5 to 15 years. That's crazy.
A depressing dinner.
My mother had the. It's depressing, man. It's a shitty dinner.
Don't bring that up until dessert, everybody.
Yeah. You imagine I come in as like an exotic dancer for a bachelorette party, Mr. Fitness, and then I'm like, hey, sit down, ladies. I want to check in with you really quick about cardiovascular disease. Look at the girl on your left. Like, 1 out of 3 of you won't get to the end of this party where I do the final dance. Like, dude, you're a downer. Who hired
him?
Get our
money back.
But in any case, yeah, get our money back. One of you won't get your money back. You'll be dead. But
I can't. I feel bad laughing. It's a funny joke, but it's a horrible topic.
But it's a horrible topic, right? So that's what got my mom. Man, she had a stroke at 60, debilitated her for the last 17 years of her life. What mom out there is right now dreaming? Oh, I hope to become debilitated to the extent that my children have to take care of me until they die or I die. Like, that's not a mom's dream. Muscle keeps you from that. Muscle is your retirement account. Muscle is the new 401k, ladies. So if there's anything that I would say sweepingly across the board within the realm of your ability to get introduced to it or to do it consistently, man, that would be the thing. Insulin resistance. There's too many numerous benefits to name, but particularly for that menopause spectrum, one of the things that we lean into is, and every certification of the 3 that I've taken recently, all 3 of them lean into strength training, prioritizing that muscle. If you're in your 20s or your 30s, you should be in a race to put as much muscle on your body as you possibly can, ladies. You're imagining a hulking woman. What you should be thinking in your mind is something more along the lines of maybe a Gal Gadot, more of that physique, more of for the ladies that like Auntie Angela Bassett, Queen Ramonda from Black Panther. That's more of the look that you're going to get if you tried super, really incredibly hard and ate perfectly and ate in a calorie surplus and smashed protein. You might get to that body. So you don't have to have the fear of thinking, oh, I'm going to look like the Incredible Hulk after I do strength training 3 times. If I go past the 3-pound dumbbell, your bodies just don't work that way.
I put a post up
and if they do,
a few weeks back. It's like, have you ever seen Austin Powers? When the guy's screaming, no, and it's coming at him like 5 miles an hour, that is your muscle mass coming at you. You will see it coming a mile away.
A mile away. You're going to scream for an hour and a half in the movie theater that something's approaching you. Like, it doesn't happen that fast. Many have tried. Few have ever succeeded.
There's a million teenage boys right now pumping with testosterone that are begging for that to happen. And it won't.
Yes. We'd all look like Captain America, ladies. Trust me, if it was that easy just to pick up some heavy weights, work out 3 times a week and just get huge, we'd be doing that. But it's not even possible for us. For most of us, there are very few genetically gifted and also genetically enhanced through gear.
Well, nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. That's you got to put up your pictures on Instagram and never once mention, by the way, I'm on testosterone, clenbuterol, and all this other stuff. Right. It's just not a natural thing that happens to most people. There are a few outliers there, but in any case, that would be the second thing that I would consider, and the third thing that I would consider. And I'm just going to put that out there, man, is some type of behavioral therapy, right? I said last year in January, and I'm going to say it again this year,
Maybe this is the year that your fitness protocol, maybe this is the year that your wellness protocol, maybe this is the year that your body goals start with therapy, right? Just to resolve some things, right? Because I've had, at this point, probably thousands of clients, or close to 1,000, I'm sure. And I know the difference between the clients who have done the deep work that come to me versus the ones that are trying to affect how they feel about themselves outside in, right? And it never works. There is no amount of weight loss, muscle gain, body change in shape. There's no amount of any of that that has ever satisfied any client that I've ever had who has not also done the inner work. And that piece can rapidly accelerate your ability to get into a physical program, stay in a physical program, and feel satisfaction with the physical program that you endeavor into. Those would be my big three, man, because you just, so many of you need more grace than you do discipline.
By far.
And I
that
get it.
Whole, like, you got to work hard or you're too lazy. Like, I'm sorry, that just does not apply to anybody I've come across.
Doesn't help. It doesn't help, man. Like, I'm sure Coach Brian would agree with me here. Like, that never works for anybody. Like, it's great on social media to see it and have freaking Jillian Michaels yell at a camera. You just got to want it bad enough. You don't want it. Like, it's entertaining. Shit never works. Never works. By far, if you were able to say, I missed a workout, life happens, the next chance that I get to make a decision, I'm going to choose to work out because that last decision doesn't define me. If you were able to get to that place, that's your gateway to consistency. But the whole, I'm off my plan again, and, I'm so stupid. I just need to buck up. I need to have more backbone. I need to learn to say no, and I need to learn to prioritize, and everybody's got the same 24. Like, none of that stuff has ever practically applied or helped a client that I've ever dealt with. And I would reason that no coach would tell you anything otherwise that has actually worked with clients consistently over a period of years.
That actually talks to them, not some just instructor that says my way or the highway.
Right.
Because I'm so glad that you said that, because it's a daily, weekly thing where I'm like, this is one of those instances, like when I'm on the phone with a client and I'm like, this is one of those instances where you got to give yourself some grace, because I really truly believe that a lot of the people that a lot of the population that struggle with weight loss, it's not because they're doing the wrong things. It's because they're doing the right things. And as soon as they slip up once, they're off the wagon.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. You're going to keep hurling yourself off of that wagon through a fictitious lens of discipline because some dude with a beard and a thick neck and a red face and a stretched collar was yelling yesterday on Instagram, and it got shared 1.6 million times.
I can see this guy,
and you think
in my head.
That's right. There's a few of them, right? And you think to yourself, that's the gateway to fitness. He's so disciplined.
Yeah, or Jillian Michaels, who's with the scowl on her face, looking at you like you are such a lazy sack of shit.
Yes. A person who is, quite frankly, genetically predisposed to her body size, let's start there, right? Probably has some advantages through cosmetic surgery. I don't know that she does or doesn't, but I'm just saying.
But it is hard for somebody who grew up in shape, skinny, and their version of unhealthy is nowhere near what unhealthy looks like. It's hard to have empathy when you've never been there.
Right. And that circles us back to that seesaw of empathy, right? Like, I've not had your experience, sir or ma'am. You are in a place of difficulty that, although I've had difficulty in my life in other areas, I cannot understand fully because it's not my experience. Therefore, I'm going to deploy more empathy because I have less experience. Now, if I have more experience, which is rare, I may be able to get away with deploying a little less empathy. Nobody can, and even then, everybody's situation is different, right? I lost my mom. It doesn't mean I understand what you feel like losing your mom, right? I lost a sibling. That has no bearing on how you feel about losing your sibling. But I do have a little more experience. But fundamentally, there's never enough experience to deploy zero empathy. Like that side of the seesaw should never hit the ground. The empathy side needs to stay somewhere in the air. I can have a little bit less, but it can't ever be zero because we can't live another human's experience, even if the experience, a set of twins can lose their father and mother, and one twin feel absolutely fundamentally different from the other one. Like we just don't have that power as humans to be all knowing about another person's experience. So that discipline shit, ladies, let it go. It has never helped you. It's always kept you on a merry-go-round of dietary restriction and falling off the merry-go-round and getting mad because you can't hold on to them. Like it's such a useless point of view along a wellness journey. And when you have a professional in the mental wellness space that you can interact with, again, here, I'm working with the understanding that the door to entry for that type of care is wildly different across socioeconomic conditions and situations. But if you have that access, or if you can follow someone on social media who is a great guide through that way of delivering information, attach yourself to that. It will make everything that you attempt physically so much more fluid in your life. Because otherwise, you're going to be probably the same person that erects all the barriers that you pay a coach to help you get over. And every time you get over one, you're just going to raise another. And it's going to frustrate you. It's going to challenge your coach in a way that they are incapable of rendering a solution for you. Do that work. Break down your own barriers, and we can get you more speed, right? If there are no brick walls to run through on the track, we can coach you to better qualities. We can get you better off the blocks. We can get you better lower in the first 100 steps. We can get you more speed and endurance around the curve. But you running and us having a stopwatch and you building more brick walls every step you run, man, it's a fundamentally flawed exchange of assistance. And we are incapable of getting you past that. We're not trained to do it. Soapbox moment. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
I was like, wow,
that's my
what
story.
a mic drop moment. Because I mean, I think that encapsulates pretty much everything that we covered, and love the way you put it, because I know it's very digestible and people definitely got a lot out of this. So I think that's a perfect spot to put the pin in it, and we'll let everybody sit on this a little bit, ingest it, and yeah, we'll call it on that one. So thank you, Ren, so much for popping on, giving us these pearls of wisdom and everything. Now, if somebody's listening is like, I need more Ren in my life, I need to see what he's up to, like, where can the people find you and see what you're doing?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I'm generally everywhere as Fitness Jones Training. The word fitness, my last name Jones, the word training, that's my website. The @ in front of that takes you to my Instagram, Fitness Jones Training, 3 words, takes you to my Facebook. You can get me all those places, man. I'm always hanging around the internet, annoying people. For one reason or another.
You'll definitely be on my account sometime soon when I promote the heck out of this podcast. So if you guys don't want to wait that long, or at this point it already happened, but all of this is going to be in the show notes. Yeah. So just scroll down, click away. I'm going to have Ren's stuff in there and all the accounts that he mentioned as well. And I'll even I'll tag Menopocalypse in there as well. So you have everything that we talked about.
Yeah, man. Amanda's awesome. Shout out to Amanda Theib again. She was on my very first episode of my podcast. She was so gracious to do that, and I sincerely appreciated that. But I appreciate being here too. Anytime we get a chance to get together and talk, man, it's a good exchange of information, and I hope it helps the people that were listening. And you got to have me back for
Oh
part
yeah,
2 now, man. Got to
absolutely,
come back.
absolutely.
And I need to have you on mine. As a matter of fact, we'll set that up. I don't want to bore the people
Nah, it's all
listening with the
good.
details.
Now they know that they can look forward to it.
Yeah, that's
All
right,
right,
man.
cool,
That's
man.
right.
Well, hope everybody got something out of this. And if you have that one person in your head right now that you're like, damn, they really need to hear this, just send it their way. Say nothing. Drop it and just say nothing and just make it weird. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Go kick some ass, and I'll see you later.